It's been quiet here outside Nancy Guthrie's house behind me. This is her house, but just about 10 minutes away at her daughter Annie Guthrie's house, which is where we believe Savannah Guthrie is also staying. They were actually out canvassing the neighborhood there. There were police going door to door, knocking on doors, trying to talk to people. So it's still very much an active investigation out here. In terms of the ransom notes, the first deadline has now passed. That one was at 5 p.m. We're told there was another deadline in the note, which is Monday. And as you heard Harvey Levin talking about, there are two things in the notes that the FBI has brought up as important. Number one, a reference to Nancy Guthrie's Apple Watch, and then also a reference to a floodlight on the outside of the house here. Timing is important, though. We don't know when they first received the ransom note. Could they have gathered some of this information from reporting that's been on the news and stuff on social media? We just don't know, Leland.
Stay with us there. We bring in Jodene Weber, Tony Braun. Thank you for joining us. Jodene, start with you. This idea that we are hearing from both Savannah Guthrie and now her brother of you need to contact us. What does that tell us that the FBI is telling the family about what they need to say?
I think they are providing the family with some very scripted language to utilize. Keep the lines of communication open. We want this person who has drafted this ransom letter to feel like they can contact you, that you are open, that you are receptive. And while you are establishing those lines of communication, keep establishing that your mother is a human and not an object. Use language that describes her as mom, mama, mommy, the things we heard them say last night. We want to know our mother is alive. Please provide proof of life. Just continue to reiterate that she is human, that she is cared for. Try to appeal to the emotions of the person that wrote the ransom letter.
Yeah, Toby, you can just imagine what the family is going through. As I was reading some of that script, I got chills listening to the son speak. I think every son puts themselves in that man's shoes. You could be talking about your mother. What has been stunning in this is some of the missteps, shall we say, of the local sheriff's office and how disconnected they seem to be from what is going on. For example, here is the sheriff talking today about seeing the plea that we all did from Savannah Guthrie. Take a listen.
Video last night, but I didn't even know that was coming out, and somebody told me, and I went on, I think my wife went on Facebook and showed it to me. That family's devastated, and anybody who watches that video, I don't know how they can sit there and not say, my goodness, we need to get this lady back.
Toby, do we have any idea who's actually running this investigation?
Well, right now it's a joint investigation with the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Office. Generally speaking, when the FBI gets involved, the FBI takes charge. However, it still appears that the sheriff is obviously very much involved in this investigation. He was the lead in the investigating agency on this, and they're still very much involved. And it seems like at this point it is a joint investigation. But once contact is made with any hostage takers, at that point the FBI will certainly take over.
Yeah, it was not perhaps reassuring at any point to hear what this sheriff had to say. And Brian, I think that's a good point to bring you back in on. Help us understand what Pima County is like. And is there discussion on the ground, or is there something we don't understand between this disconnect of a sheriff who gives an interview to absolutely everybody and is on TV 24/7 and yet seems to make so many mistakes and seems to have to walk back so much and yet knows so little?
How did the sheriff not know that Savannah Guthrie made that video? How is it his wife who told him that?
His wife's Facebook
I mean,
page.
I cannot get past that point. Yeah, the FBI was in the house helping her make the video, but the sheriff had no idea. That, to me, leaves me speechless. In terms of other issues that have happened here, you know, they took the crime scene tape down just a day afterwards, Leland, and then came back days later and put the crime scene tape back up. Today, the sheriff said, look, a Monday morning quarterbacking, that was a mistake. I wish I had left the tape up. And I asked the question at the press conference today, who's in control now? Because today it felt very much more like the FBI had taken over And the sheriff didn't really want to say. He said, oh, I don't think of it like that. It's not about who's in control. We're working this together. But there have obviously been some missteps over the last couple of days.
Yeah, Jodene, a couple of the things that I think the FBI spoke to, and we're trying to, I think, figure out, or we are, and maybe the FBI also is, whether or not these ransom notes are actually from the people who kidnapped and took Mrs. Guthrie and still have her. This is the FBI on that issue of the Apple Watch itself that was written about in the note.
I don't have the specific time frame as I sit here today of what time it came in, but that you are right. Anyone could see a floodlight hanging down, could have seen some of those things. The watch has been talked about, so that timing is tricky, but that's why we're taking it serious no matter what and following the leads on that.
That was in response to Brian Entin's question. So I guess, Jodene, my thought here, what is the FBI trying to tell the ransom note writers? They want to be showing respect, but without saying they believe them?
I think what they want to do is see, are they legit or not? Are they the people who actually have Nancy Guthrie? If not, they want to pursue possibly a separate crime of an imposter posing as a kidnapper, because that's distracting from the number one mission, and that is to locate Nancy Guthrie and to arrest whoever did abduct her in the middle of the night. Certainly with the FBI on scene now, we've got the CAST team, we've got all the resources that the FBI brings. Certainly with more boots on the ground, we can do more thorough neighborhood canvasses, collect more videos, bring more technical analysis, possibly language services, equipment resources. There's all sorts of...
The amount of resources the FBI brings is just unbelievable here. This is from the FBI. I think it's interesting. You're getting sort of a dual message, right? You have the family speaking, you know, we want our mom back, please contact us. And then the FBI putting the family out there. Here is the FBI talking directly to the kidnappers.
I think it's pretty clear the family wants to be contacted. They know time is of the essence. And if those that may have Nancy are watching this, the family is ready to talk, get proof of life, because there has been no contact after that ransom note went to the media.
Jodene, help us understand, why would the FBI sort of use the family, for lack of a better term, as a cutout rather than say, you have her, talk to us?
I think because they want to not come across as, okay, the law enforcement wants to talk to you. I think they feel that whoever this person is would feel more comfortable talking to the family, and perhaps even make a mistake in that process, feeling less on guard.
Less threat, yeah. That makes sense. Brian, to you, where is this in the investigative process? And by that, I mean, you've been on how many countless of these major crime stories. Back when I was reporting and covering them, you would all of a sudden get these sort of alerts or moments where, okay, there was a suspicious car in a supermarket parking lot, and everybody shows up, and the FBI and all the evidence teams go and surround the car and search it, and then everybody leaves. And that'll happen in an apartment building, then it'll happen at a storage facility. A lot of them are false alarms, but they happen. Has there been any places with major law enforcement activity that they could possibly tell us where they are in the investigation?
No, not really. And I think that's one of the things that makes this so unique and so mysterious is that hasn't happened. I mean, we've obviously seen the police here at Nancy Guthrie's house. We've seen the police at Annie Guthrie's house, the daughter. But beyond that, it's not like they've swarmed a warehouse or there's some other, event that's happened. And I, just back to what you were talking about, I'm not convinced that the FBI fully thinks that these ransom notes are legit, Leland. I think it's a possibility. But my sense is there are maybe 2 or 3 or 4 roads that they are going down right now, and that the ransom notes may just be one of them, and they obviously have to, look at everything. But I mean, they wouldn't rule out persons of interest today. They said they don't have any suspects. And then at one point, the sheriff said that everybody's a suspect. So I think there's more that we don't know beyond just the ransom note happening behind the scenes.
Now, Toby, are we to believe that there's all this work going on and they know so much more than they are letting on, even though, as Brian points out, there's been no other locations that we know of searched? There's been no videotape released of a possible suspect or even a license plate. What does the lack of information from the police and the FBI tell us?
Well, at this point, in any active investigation like this, law enforcement is always going to be reluctant to release information to the public unless releasing that information to the public has a direct benefit to them, i.e. releasing a photo and then asking the public for help of identifying that person in the photograph or a vehicle or somewhat of a description. So the fact that they're not releasing information tells us that there's nothing tangible right now that would be used to request public assistance that would really aid the public in helping to identify.
Yeah, the one place that they would be looking for finding the public's help would be
Correct.
if there was videotape. And Brian, I'll let you end this here. This is a retirement community. These homes are all worth $1 million+ dollars. Ring doorbell cameras are something we all have. Have you heard from any neighbors whether they've given videotape evidence to either the police or the FBI?
So, yeah, I've talked to a lot of neighbors, and the detectives have been to all the neighbors' houses, but the issue is the houses are set far back off the road. They're on 1, 2, 3 acres of land. There's a ton of cactuses and brush in front. It's pitch black at night. There's no street lights. So it's not like a normal neighborhood where a Ring camera on a front door could see a car driving by. That's just not really the case here. So I don't think video in the neighborhood, from what I can tell, is going to be that helpful, Leland.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.